Hi, I'm Mindy with Henley Handmade. I naturally dye yarn for knitters and crocheters who are just trying to knit as naturally as possible. So I am here today with you for a little knitting chair chat. Full disclosure, I I was getting ready to write an email to my newsletter subscribers, and while making a cup of tea, I started to record a voice memo while I was waiting for my kettle to boil. And I was thinking that I would translate the voice memo to an email. And what proceeded to happen was kind of a dialogue on I thought it would be better for me to get in front of the camera and sort of try to recreate it. So I'm gonna do my best. I kind of sketched out some notes, a little outline from the voice memo, and I'm going to try to recreate it in video form for you now. So here we are. I'm just gonna get into it. So this morning I was doing something called morning pages, and it is a concept that I got from a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And I haven't actually finished the book, but one of the first things that she recommends the reader to do is to start carving out some time every morning to just journal. For her rule of thumb is for 3 pages every morning, and just to kind of like get the blah 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 out of your head, and help just kind of clear your brain of anything that's kind of lingering in there for you know, a good start to your day. I have my mom's dog here. we're watching this little guy. He's a big guy. Gilly, do you want to be in the camera there? Hello. Oh, scared him with the squeak. Anyway, so he may jingle a little bit. Hi. Hello. He's trying to tell me something. So I've been getting up regularly, 20 minutes early, and sitting with my journal and writing. Most days I do try to do the 3 pages, and just to kind of get some thoughts out of my head, and then I start my day. I haven't been doing it for long enough to really, I don't know, see any long-term or even short-term benefits. I guess I haven't really reflected on it all that much. It must be helping me in some capacity because I continue to do it. But this morning in my morning pages, I was kind of writing about the origin of Henley Handmade. Actually, I wasn't writing about the origin of Henley Handmade. I was writing about this sock pattern that I'm working on, and that kind of got me thinking about, you know, when I started Henley Handmade. And it reminded me that I hadn't really, I don't know that I've ever shared this before about the start of Henley Handmade. And part of that is because, you know, marketing experts, you know, teach you a certain way to present your story to the world. And you know, being the rule follower that I am, I just kind of took that advice and I went with it. And I think it is good advice, because the advice is to, when you're starting a business and you're sharing about your business, you want to make sure that the customer sees themselves in your business and in the place that they fit, and just be customer focused, right? And that makes perfect sense, because on the other end of that, when I am on the other end of that as a prospective customer or buyer, I am looking for things that will help me, and I just don't really care that much usually about why a person started the business. I just want to know if their business is going to help me or help me in the way that I want it, that I'm hoping that it will. Anyway, um, I want to get back to the sock pattern, because the sock pattern is, um, it's gone through testing and the pattern is looking good, and I am putting the finishing touches on it. I've just been waylaid a little bit because I was putting the Mother's Day boxes together. But I was thinking about this, in writing about this in my morning pages this morning, about how, you know, years ago I couldn't have just said, okay, I'm gonna do a knitting. I'm gonna make a knitting pattern, a sock pattern now. I actually started Henley Handmade with years and years and years before I actually launched the shop. I was in a job that I did not love, and I wanted to be able to use my creativity, ironically, and I'll tell you why that's ironic in a moment. I wanted to knit. I wanted to get paid to knit because I loved knitting and I didn't love my job, but I couldn't figure out how to make the two work. I couldn't figure out how to actually pay my bills by knitting. And of course, the first thing that came to mind was selling finished products. And, you know, at the time, Etsy was new, and, you know, friends had told me, oh, you need to put your stuff on Etsy and sell it on Etsy. And I kind of looked into it, and I was like, I don't know. What it came down to is I'm not a fast knitter. And to actually be able to make money enough to pay my bills, I wouldn't be able to knit fast enough. I wouldn't be able to sell enough things, enough finished items to be able to pay my bills. And of course, this was years before I had children, and this was maybe just about the beginning of my relationship with my now husband. And so I quickly eliminated that as an option because I just knew that I couldn't knit fast enough to be able to do that. So my next thought was, well, shoot, I could design patterns. I could make patterns. And then almost instantly, my brain said, "What? Why do you think you could do that? You are not a creative person." And there was the problem, right? Somehow I had picked up along the way that I am not, or was not, a creative person. Now, besides the fact that I think everyone is creative, because I truly do, well, I'll back up a little bit. So I learned to knit and crochet and counted cross stitch and sew. I learned all these things as a child. Thank you, Mom and Grandma and Aunt, all the beautiful women that I have been blessed to have in my life to teach me these skills. But it was very much, this is the pattern, these are the instructions, this is step one, and this is what step one means, and now you do it. And this is step two. Okay, this is what step two means. This is how you do it, and move on to step three. So it was very much as you would learn, right? As you would, as I would teach my own daughter or son, reading the pattern and interpreting those instructions, and then translating those instructions into the stitches, or whatever you're making. It makes sense. I learned to follow the pattern. I never learned how to make the pattern. That wasn't part of my instruction, of my learning process. It was just, here's the pattern, and this is how you make it from the pattern. So because I suspect because of that, there was never really any room for interpretation. Although of course there is. I hope you know that. Patterns, even ones that you pay for, are always open to interpretation. And, you should use those instructions and make them yours so that it becomes a project that you love, or what you need, or you're always, of course, you're always free to veer off into your own creative juices. So anyway, I'm starting to veer off a little bit from my outline here. I gotta check my outline. So after I kind of eliminated that option of being able to design patterns. And, to be honest, I'm not even sure that I realized at that time, because that was before Ravelry, or maybe just at the beginning of Ravelry, that I could even sell patterns as an independent designer. So it was never a serious consideration for me. So I just stayed in my job that I didn't like, and I made a few, I was never super happy with whatever job I was doing. So let's fast forward quite a few years to the birth of my daughter, of my first child, my daughter. She was born 6 weeks premature, and I spent several weeks in the hospital with her. We both had complications. Well, me more than her, actually. She was doing great. My body just kicked her out early. And because of a series of events that aren't important to the story, I really struggled with my milk supply, and I was dead set on breastfeeding her. And so when she came home from the hospital, we spent a lot of time in this one big comfy chair in our living room nursing. And what happened was I discovered the knitting vlogs on YouTube. And so while she nursed, and I would watch the knitting vlogs. And of course we didn't call them vlogs back then, but that's what they were. And that kind of really planted a seed for maybe even designing patterns, but it definitely planted the seed for dyeing yarn. And I saw a lot of these knitting designers kind of dip their toes into dyeing yarn themselves, and I thought, I could do that. I had done a tiny bit of dyeing when I was in elementary school for a science fair project, and remembered that I had done it before. And because I had done it before, I just thought that, okay, I can do it again. So fast forward to my son coming home from the hospital. I just, with two, with a newborn and a young and a toddler, I was craving me time. I was craving something that was just mine. And throughout the next couple of years is when Henley Handmade started to take shape. Is when I started taking an online business class, and started actually playing with dyes and yarn in my kitchen. And I tried a few different things. I started with food coloring. I dyed my first skein of yarn with food coloring, with Henry napping, strapped to my chest in a baby carrier. And I promise he was safe. He was nowhere near any hot things. But I didn't, that was like a microwave skein. Anyway, that's a whole different thing. And from there I tried a couple of other things, and excuse the dogs barking. And I just kind of adopted this idea of you know, all these other people are doing it. Why can't I? They've figured it out. I can figure it out too. And I remember having this exact same thought when I was really nervous as a very beginning driver. I remember doing my driver's training, by behind the wheels driver's training, thinking so nervous, so incredibly nervous, and thinking, okay, all these other people around me are driving. They were beginners once too. They figured it out. I'm not dumb. I can figure it out too. And of course I did. So I kind of taken that mindset with things when I feel like they might be, when I feel like I might be getting in over my head. So let me check my notes again because I think I'm starting to veer off again. Okay. So this dyeing of yarn helped feed that desire to make money for my family while knitting. And while it was a bit indirect, it was still knitting. I mean, I was knitting samples and everything. So it's indirect, but I still feel like I get paid to knit. So now let's talk about how I made the transition into designing patterns, because you know, this sock is almost ready. This will be my second knitting pattern. My first being the hat that I released in January. But I am finding that I'm still struggling with calling myself a creative person, which is absolutely ridiculous, because we all have such creativity in us. And just even I really came as I was today. I'm sorry, I don't want to, that's so distracting. We all have this creativity inside us, and all we have to do is just start taking steps forward. Life can really be a meandering forest path, can't it? It's like there's really steep sections, there's smaller sections of kind of relaxing path. I feel like there have been so many switchbacks, and we fall, we get hurt, and then we have to rest and heal and recover, and then we get back up and we do it again. You know, we get started again. When I started this, when I started the audio recording, before I decided to make this into a video, I was making my favorite herbal tea of the moment anyway. I have a cup of caffeinated tea in the morning, and then mid-morning, many times I'll have some herbal tea. And my favorite right now is the Yogi Teas. And on the tag for the tea bag, you know, the part that holds the string to the tea bag and you wind it around your handle, your mug handle, they have these little love notes, I like to call them. They're like little notes of encouragement. And today's said, and I thought this was just, gosh, so darn appropriate. It said, the only thing that can limit you is believing that you are limited. Become limitless. And I just kind of said, I think I even said it aloud. I said, wow, that is appropriate for me today. So, I don't know, do you believe this? The only thing that can limit you is believing that you are limited. Become limitless. I still struggle to believe that I could become limitless. And I'm the type of person to combat that, I guess, I try to work with the idea that I am the type of person who believes they could become limitless. I am the type of person who is limitless. See how there's like subtle steps? I think there's subtle steps to believing some of these ideas that are true, that are absolutely true, but maybe you just don't currently believe it. So, I have a homework assignment for you, if you're interested. This idea of being limitless and only being limited by not believing that's true, I thought would make a really good journal prompt. I don't usually use journal prompts for my morning pages, but I have done plenty of journal prompts over the years, and they kind of help you sort things out sometimes. So I'm just going to encourage you to spend some time journaling on this idea. How do you feel limited right now? In what areas of your life do you feel you're limited, or you are believing that you're limited? And, just spend some time journaling on this. Grab a journal, grab a notebook, grab some printer paper, and, if it helps, set a timer for, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and just, write out your thoughts on this. Do you believe this is true? Do you believe it could be true? And where is it that you're getting stuck in life? What has you feeling limited? In what areas of your life are you feeling limited? And choose one of those things. Choose one of those big ones. One of those big ones that will have the most impact in your life if you were able to change what you thought about it. And maybe take one small step. Maybe it's working on the way you're phrasing things in your head or even aloud. The way that I am saying that I'm the type of person who could believe that I'm limitless. Maybe work on that and just kind of try to remind yourself throughout the day that you could be the person who believes that something is possible for you, whatever that thing is that has you feeling held back right now. And perhaps take one small step forward. So for me, my mindset was, that I wasn't a creative person, and there was no way that I could design knitting patterns. So I started believing that I am a creative person, and I, at least at this point, believe that I'm the type of person who has creativity in them, and is starting to find that creativity and turn it into something that I can see in the real world. Excuse me. And once I kind of got there, I did take a small step forward, an actual step forward by signing up for a course that would teach me how to do the thing that I thought that I couldn't do. And then, my next small step was actually doing the lessons in that class. And then the next step was actually doing the thing. And I will freely admit that it took me a long time to get from finishing the class to actually doing the thing. But that doesn't really matter that much, does it? The point is that, there's no time frame for this. There's no time limit. when the time was right, I moved forward. And now I'm really happy that I did. And, you know, I put one foot in front of the other and one step at a time, just one step at a time. And now I am, you know, I almost have my second pattern out and I'm working on a third pattern right now. And they just kind of start to snowball after a while when you really do start taking those small steps. Lots of small steps equals big steps, right? Okay, so that was, you know, actually doing the work. Okay, so I want to wrap this up because I hope this hasn't been too off course, I guess. But I want to wrap this up because I feel like in a lot of ways life is a knitting pattern, but it's not a knitting pattern that's already been created for us, is it? It's not like when I was learning to knit and sew and crochet. It's you are the designer. You are the designer of those steps and the instructions for those steps and how those steps are interpreted. And if there's something in your journaling activity that really jumped out at you as being a place where you're stuck or a place where you acknowledge that you are being limited by yourself, or even being limited by things that are out of your control, I would just encourage you to just, you know, take it one step at a time. But address it. I mean, acknowledge it, right? Acknowledge it and take a step forward towards what you want your reality to be instead of what you're let happen to you. So, the only thing that can limit you is believing that you are limited. Become limitless. The wise advice from my Yogi Tea this morning. I'm here to share it with you. And I don't know, I hope you can find some value in this. I really do. I like to talk about knitting, and I did talk about knitting, but I talked more, I think the point really was to, you know, find the courage and strength to become who you've always meant to be. Anyway, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to my little knitting chair TED Talk. And I do hope that you'll spend some time journaling and thinking about ways that you can become limitless, and I'm going to do the same. So I will see you next time. Bye.